Hey everybody, this is Rydo and we're back to another recording of Hearthstone. Today is Friday, September 21st and we've got a fan wanting to play me, so let's play Tragic Master. I also have a daily quest to play Shaman cards, so I'm just going to play my Even Shaman deck, and after playing those two cards, I will be good to go. And I can move over to the European account because we've got a lot of work to do as far as the European account and the Asian account, because there's at least 3 pretty rough tavern brawls I have to do. Let's see. Hold on to that card because it's a Shaman card. Gamma Sutra has an article. PlayStation Now begins offering downloadable PS2 and PS4 games, but oddly not PS3 games, and also not PlayStation 1 games, which is a little bit weird, I would say, because you would almost certainly be able to on the PlayStation 4 through PlayStation Now service, which I'm pretty sure you do need a PlayStation 4 hardware to do PlayStation Now. You almost certainly would be able to emulate PlayStation 1 games, and I know there is that micro that PlayStation 1 Mini that has 20 games on it, but I figure you could probably at least duplicate those 20 games through PlayStation Now also, or have different games. And then the weird thing here is that they've literally just given up on PlayStation 3. Like, because PlayStation 3 is a completely different type of processor, it's just not compatible at all. They're just saying, we can't emulate PlayStation 3 games. Which is a shame, but it also probably explains why you haven't seen any PC releases or remasters or releases of things like Heavenly Sword. You just can't. Nobody is willing to spend the money, I think, to remaster and release a game that was originally designed for the PS3 and that cell processor. It seems like it's too much work. Tragic Master's on the chat. Also, he says 2 Shaman cards, you say? I can help with a fun game. He's probably said that a few minutes ago. Let's do this, this, and this, and this. Like, the library of PlayStation 3 games that you would want translated over, they are good games. They are all PlayStation exclusive games, I would say, but it's not a super long list. It's the God of War games, it's the Uncharted games, it's Heavenly Sword. I'm not sure there's too much of anything else that didn't eventually come either to PC or Xbox. But Sony is certainly not improving its appearance to the outward fan base by specifically excluding PlayStation 3 games. They needed to find some way to spin that. Not have it there. What they probably should have done is saying, they should have announced PlayStation 2 games for PSN Now, and then they should have probably waited and announced PS4 games later on. Had the 2 announcements been several weeks apart, then there could have been a gap there, but by putting it in the same announcement, it's like, we've got PlayStation 2 and we've got PlayStation 4. There's obvious, well, what about PS3? Let's see. We've got a game on Steam called Roman Adventures Britain Season 1. I've seen several of these strategy games, top-down strategy games. This is an English and Russian game, $5.99. Being a Season 1 game, that also knocks it out of contention. This developer has made a considerable amount of games that look very similar, and let's see, one of them is got 83% positive with 12 user reviews, and one of them is 68% with 16 user reviews. So I think that's an easy enough game to ignore if I am going to play a strategy game, top-down real-time strategy game of that sort. I don't know why it's not going to be some of the better known Age of Empires games instead of some unknown developer. TechRaptor has an article, Pilot Sports coming to the PlayStation 4 and Nintendo Switch on October 4th. I think Pilot Sports might be a continuation of the Pilot Wings series. The difference is now you're doing a lot more. Or it could not be.
Have I got a bob for you?
No, it's not. Pilot Sports is not related to the Pilot Wings series, but I'm pretty sure there is a Pilot Wings like continuation game that was coming to the Switch at least, but I've forgotten the name of it. Pilot Sports looks a little rough in the graphics department, and that is also a talk about a game that I just need to wait until it actually comes out to talk about. We have a game on Steam called War of Conquest, which is a free-to-play, top-down, real-time strategy war game. Again, the graphics a little rough, a little missing textures here. Early access free-to-play game. Since it's free, you might check it out just because of that, but honestly there's nothing here that catches my attention, and looking, it's the only game from this developer. Alright. Play this.
Job done.
And in return, next we have a game on Steam called RAMS, which apparently stands for Research Automatic Military System. And what is it really? I'm seeing a trailer. Graphics not hyper realistic, but not terribly bad either. But what I would assume this is it's a slightly more polished asset flip first-person shooter game than what I'm typically used to seeing. It still suffers from having a generic map and UI. It seems like there's no enemies or anything that's being shown. Yeah. It just seems like you run around and shoot people. It's something I've seen a lot of.
The universe unravels.
And take that. Do that. Rams is early access, 10% off for $11.69. No interest in keeping it on that on the wish list though, so close that tab. Gamer Citra has an article. Valve will start helping developers moderate their Steam communities, which is interesting because you kind of assumed that there was something of that already. Like, What you don't see on Valve's website is a bunch of spam or advertisements on there. So at some level, there's some form of control that's already happening. But the developers of games, I think, probably want to do something a little bit more. They probably want to censor and control it, and Valve is in a very interesting position where they have to say, well, we can't have credible negative reviews, or even, you know, review bombing. We can't stop that from happening as long as it's not being review bombed by a competitor or something like that. If it's review bombing because they DMCA PewDiePie, I would say that's probably valid as long as they explain their reasons for review bombing in the review. Whereas if it's review bombing because it's a corporation paying a bunch of random people to negatively review games so that their version of PUBG sells better, I think that is when it starts getting to vote manipulation. Well, so inherently, I guess that in my head means I feel like consumers should have the right to do some things where the corporation shouldn't be allowed to do, and I do believe that, so that makes sense. So let's read this article. Starting on September 25th, whenever a community discussion thread or post is reported by a player, it will automatically be added to a queue where Valve's moderation team to review. Any material that violates the community guidelines will then be removed. It's a change that will hopefully take some pressure off game developers who until now had to moderate individual game discussions themselves. To be fair, I have never seen an ad on a game's discussion thread. But I guess what I would take from this is it probably happens on some really rare occasions. So rare, in fact, that Valve is willing to even have their employees spend their time on it. Now, if I was an employee at Valve and I was told I have to do the moderating here, and I'm some video game programmer, I would definitely not be happy in that position at all. Okay, so Tragic Master helped me get that done, so thanks Tragic. Off to the European account. Let's see. But I imagine also Valve is just subcontracting all of its moderation deals out to people in India. Let's see. Tragic Master said, "Good game, man. Good luck on the other server." Thanks.
It's good to see you again.
While the Steam moderation team already had the power to review and take action against other forms of reported contents, such as screenshots, artwork, and guides, Valve was reluctant to start moderating individual discussions for fear of stepping on the toes of the game devs. However, with an increased number of developers asking for the company to show more of a presence on the Steam discussion board, Valve has decided it's time to for a change in tack. We are at a point where we want to make sure we're putting our tools and human power to use in more ways across the Steam community. Of course, how this really gets implemented is all the question, and how it's actually moderated, because on the face of it, a lot of rules seem very fair and they get implemented very unfairly. It could be that the Campo Santo group is going to have undue influence, although that's not where Valve is going right now. It took them some time, but they got to the uncensored games being available on Steam. They seem to be more about free speech, so you would hope they would maintain that stance in their discussions. Although a discussion on a specific game's forum isn't 100% free speech because you need to be talking about that game. too, and that needs to be the main topic of discussion. Let's see. The next quote is, "We won't be actively pursuing your community discussions or posting in threads. You have your own voice and your own style of communication with players in game. We'll only be communicating with players if it's necessary when issuing a warning or ban for reported content." So, how many people have ever even been probably reported for posting something in the discussion board? I bet the number one thing that gets flagged is spam. Just people saying, "Hey, check out my YouTube channel," which, heck, I would do it if I thought it would work. I'd be like, "Oh yeah, I'll have somebody post in every game discussion forum to check out my YouTube channel." Anyone who wants to retain total control over the communications can opt out of the new service by visiting the Steamworks settings for their games. For more information, be sure to check out Steamworks blog post. So if you really don't want them to even moderate the flag things, that is still very much an option. Okay. So here's the big deal. I need 3 Tavern Brawls. I need to play Priest cards. I need 2 victories with Warrior. So it's Tavern Brawl, Tavern Brawl, Tavern Brawl. Start playing with the Warrior. And in all honesty, in some of the post-show that happened Wednesday, some of the victories I got was simply by not playing at all. I'd really boiled down to the point where I was just like starting a game and then not paying attention at all, and just playing on my phone until the opponent decided that it wasn't worth their time and left.
I will burn this world and rule its ashes.
Because it's definitely not fun to do this Tavern Brawl. And inherently, that's the problem with some of these Tavern Brawls in general, is it's just Blizzard, Activision Blizzard, telling me to play these Hearthstone cards that I've already decided I don't really want to play. Or play in a way that I don't understand or don't want to play. Let's see. Should I destroy weapons? We already talked about the Vita ending production. Gamasutra has an article. Tilting Point drops $29 million into Star Trek Timeline's developer Disruptive Beam. So if you're a fan of Star Trek Timelines, then this probably is some good news. See, Star Trek Timelines, I believe, is the card game. Is it not? Let's do a quick Google search.
I must choose.
Oops. Let's see. Star Trek Timelines is not the card game.
No
it's
peace, no rest.
What is it? Seems like it's some kind of game. Or maybe it is a card game. Maybe they've just upgraded this. It says action and RPG strategy. Yeah, it does. I cannot tell if this is a card game and the card game has just been improved a little bit compared to what I saw in the beta, or if this is a completely different game. well, Timelines, by the way, is 48% positive with 428 user reviews. Let me see if I can find a... When did this game come out? That would be an indicator too. Came out January 14th, 2016, so this is not the game I played. They're all the same though. That's the problem, is all these Star Trek games by the same name. Because of course it's going to be Star Trek something. I see a game called Star Trek Victory is Life. That's not it. There's a not recommended review here. It says if you don't play constantly, you're running up. If you don't pay money, you're constantly running uphill. They constantly get steeper. So it seems like it's a microtransaction laden game, suckering in all the Star Trek fans. And see, that is definitely something that I've tried to inoculate myself from. I definitely did not want to become a super fan of Star Trek. Even though I do like the Star Trek series, I don't want to end up having to buy things over and over again in the way that Star Wars in particular was constantly trying to rip people off with merchandising. So I'm searching Star Trek on Steam right now.
For the master.
There's Star Trek Online, which is 76% positive. Star Trek Timelines. Star Trek Bridge Crew, which is 83% positive. Star Trek Adversaries. Maybe that was the one that was telling me. Yes, Adversaries was the card game. And it is now, in the last 30 days, 70% positive for 17 user reviews. Came out July 25th, 2018. But overall, of the 230 reviews it has, it's only 60% positive. So, yeah, people not super hot on it. It definitely didn't turn into a Hearthstone replacement, which is what it would have needed to do. And that didn't happen. There's also Star Trek 25th Anniversary, which is 93% positive. Star Trek Starfleet Academy, which is 80% positive. Star Trek Starfleet Commander Gold Edition, Star Trek Judgment Rights, Star Trek Bridge Crew Bundle, and the Next Generation, so you get Next Generation DLC, Star Trek Generation Bridge Crew Next Generation, Stern Pinball Arcade, Star Trek, and I think that's the last Star Trek directly things. And Stern Pinball Arcade Star Trek is part of Stern Pinball, which Stern Pinball Arcade, which is mostly negative. It's from Farsight Studios. When did it come out? December 23rd, 2016. So, yeah, I've definitely tried to inoculate myself from the idea of being too much of a super fan of Star Trek, because I don't want to spend a lot of money on a lot of bad games, which there have been certainly a lot of bad games in the Star Trek genre. We have Dinesh, that's probably Dinesh, who says love from India. Hi Dinesh. Well, no victory there, no real surprise either. We have a game on Steam called Steve's Pub Soda on Tap, which looks like a VR game where you're working at a pub, and my feelings about playing games where you're doing a job still have not changed. This looks more like a actual video game where you're sliding down beer down the bar towards thirsty patrons. There have been 2D versions of games like this, and there's actually 2 bars that you can slide it down, which is kind of ridiculous. But the graphics look terrible. It's a free-to-play game though, so if you have VR and you want to play Steve's Pub Soda on Tap, you probably would get about 5 minutes of entertainment out of it until you got bored with it, which is probably more than what you can say about a lot of the games that come out on for VR. A lot of them don't look good enough to even bother to try and launch, which that's an issue too. Certainly a lot of VR games are messes to trying to get running. So, we have a game on Steam called Sakura de Mahjong. It doesn't look like it's a widescreen game. It's Mahjong matching, which is, you know, just a very generic games. It's the Eastern equivalent of playing Klondike Solitaire, or making a Klondike Solitaire game.
The sun has set for me.
I feel empty inside.
And so these games are never really worth whatever they're asking because they're too simplistic. Sakura de Mahjong is 40% off for $2.99. That's way too expensive. We have an article from Gamasutra. The Final Fantasy composer Nobu Uematsu, that's Uematsu, is halting his work due to ill health. He's stepping away from his current slate of projects to failing health. Generally speaking, if you're a Japanese person and you're stepping away due to ill health, you might as well take that as an indication that they are very close to dying. Like, very, very close, because working themselves to death is a sad factor, particularly in the video game industry, but just in almost all industries in Japanese working. So he worked on Final Fantasy titles, Super Smash Bros. Brawl, Lost Odyssey, and Blue Dragon. Getting a new music composer for Final Fantasy isn't an impossible task, but it certainly could lend to a feeling of the game just feeling different. Because I definitely could understand that the music was a whole issue.
Immortality.
Let's see, and they will almost certainly not say what is actually wrong with them. Next, we have a game called Escape Parking Lot on Steam, which is tagged as an adventure indie casual, suffering from dark screenshot syndrome, and just looks like it's a garbage asset flip type game, set in a parking lot with a dragon attacking you for no reason. Yeah. If you ever needed an example of an asset flip, how about a simplified Chinese game that doesn't have English as an option, where you run around in a parking lot and one shot. So yeah, Escape Parking Lot, which is English is not supported, is $13.99. Yeah, these low effort games come from all around the world. China, being a big part of the world, provides a lot of them. Next we have a game that's all in either Chinese or Japanese characters. This is another simplified Chinese only game. 15% off for $16.99. I can't even tell you what the name is, but apparently it translates to the Scroll of Taiwu, T-A-I-W-U.
What now?
Like, remember, right now the video games are not getting approved for sale in China, so every single Chinese developer is probably incredibly desperate to find some way to sell their game and make some amount of money, because they're not selling it in the one place they were probably focused on selling it. Let's see. We have Pun Master came on the chat. He says I-A-Y-Y. Then he says Forcing joke here, or Forcing, and then it says it's 1 damage off lethal. And yeah, it was 1 damage off lethal. That one turn, and then the next turn came around, and then I was fine. Next we have a game on Steam called Pummel Party, which is oddly 100% of 14 user reviews. It's a 4-player online and local multiplayer party game. We've seen certainly a lot of these before. Pummel Party, I will say, does look like it's a little bit more polished, and it oddly seems to shift between third-person perspective and top-down perspectives. So, I don't know if this is some kind of Mario Party-esque game. Yeah, it is. It's a Mario Party clone. So there's some mini games that you play from a top-down perspective, but you have a third-person over-the-shoulder perspective that happens when you're moving around. So yeah, can I play it single player? It says I can, but I'm not sure if I really can.
The sun has set.
The idea of a Mario Party clone on PC is very appealing. There's apparently a board mode. Pummel Party is very bloody too. You can play with bots. You know what? I'll put Pummel Party on my wish list. It's 10% off for $13.49. If you're big into Mario Party, but you want it to be a little bit bloodier, and you want people who are, and you want to play with people on PC, either locally or around the internet, this seems like it's got some of that. It probably doesn't have anywhere as many, mini games or as much polish as the most recent Mario Party, but I bet it's better than the very first Mario Party 2. So somewhere probably in the middle there. You see, chat is just firing off. Let's see. Oh, Pun Master explained himself. In a tournament scene, Forsen, F-O-R-S-E-N, went 1 damage off lethal and lost. Oh. Yeah, I don't watch the Hearthstone tournaments or anything like that, but that would be annoying, certainly. I've certainly experienced things like that. See, charge.
For the war chief! Before me! For Hellscream!
We have a game on Steam called Hyperspace Delivery Service. It looks like it's an old school point and click adventure. No, it's actually a Wolfenstein 3D clone. And space, with space flying around elements. It's a weird combination of old games doing pixely graphics. I wouldn't inherently call this 8-bit pixel graphics, I just call it low resolution pixel graphics. The slight difference being the sprites don't inherently try to be very small.
Smelly fish! Yummy fish!
Let's see. This is an early access game, Hyperspace Delivery Service, 15% off for $8.49. For being old school graphics, it's very ugly looking, let's just put it that way. So that makes it pretty easy to ignore ignore the game.
Azeroth will be purified.
And the previous game this developer made was a similarly badly animated game, but it was a point-and-click adventure game, which allowed 29 users to give it a 93% positive rating. Either way, that's not a lot of people playing your games. Man, my mouse. I've rubbed off, I think, all the coating on either my mouse or my keyboard. And actually, I have a new mouse pad I should test and see if that is the problem.
Live to serve the Lich King.
Before I get rid of the mouse and replace it.
A real stinker! Before me!
Job's done.
We have a game on Steam called Tactic Code. Seems like it is some sort of programming-esque game, but it's a drag and drop visual programming system. Looks very simplistic. It's in English and simplified Chinese. I think it's super simple. It's early access and 99 cents. There are better programming games out there, and I'm not sure how many, if any, programming games you should really play before you just take a programming class. Let's see. And I'm a little short. I shouldn't have done that. But whatever.
A real stinker!
By his will.
Let's see. I'm looking to see if my donate Nightbot command works. It's not something I think people can type in, although it was supposed to be something you could type in. But it's supposed to pop up after a certain number of time in comments to point to my new Patreon. And it didn't work first time it did try to kick in. Where are we now? We still need one more Tavern Brawl, and we need a bunch of priest class cards. So let's play as a priest. Priest. And go. Okay, we have a game on Steam called Siberian Dawn. Siberian Dawn is the original solo digital card game that combines the core soul of a deck builder with the tactical power of a war game and the strategic challenge of crisis management. I don't know what you get strategic challenge of crisis management from. That sounds like a nonsense story.
The shadow of death.
Looking at this game, it's not very prettily animated for a card game. It's pretty ugly, pretty simply designed. It's a free game with some DLC, but all the DLC is only like $2.60 too, so I would say this is probably more of an abandoned card game than anything else. I don't see how a lot of people are gonna be interested in playing this. Maybe it's a single player game anyway, so you're playing against bots. And it's the only game from this developer, so yeah. When the Star Wars card game can't succeed, guess what? A random developer isn't going to be able to succeed.
Speak your piece.
Let's see. Next we have a game called The Slatter, which I'm not sure if this is actually a real game or a troll game, because it's described as get ready to kill drug dealers, crime bosses, and anyone who stands in your way as you seek revenge for your father's murder. The Slatter is a story-driven first-person stealth action puzzle game that puts you in the shoes of a former cop, Mark Slatter. Which I don't know if there is a word that makes sense, like slatter. I've never heard of anybody called a slatter.
Shadows grow short.
Or Slater, perhaps. It would make more sense as a name if it was Slater. So this looks animated a little bit better. It looks good, which is surprising because I kind of want to say this is an asset flip game and a ripoff of Hitman, and clearly it is some level of a ripoff of a Hitman game, but it may not have all the weirdness of a Hitman game, so that's interesting. This is also the only game from this developer, but it's 81% positive of its 11 user reviews already, having just come out today. Okay. Nope, picked the wrong one.
What a bother.
So I've got to wishlist the Slater and see if we could get some better, more reviews on it and make a better decision. We have a game on Steam called Closer Than You Think. Excellent music, high quality graphics, and an unusual story is all it has to describe itself as. And I would have to say that that is a lie, because the drawing art style does not look good to me. It looks like garbage, and they've done nothing to really describe what's going on in this game. It's translated in English and Russian, which tells me it's probably an extremely low effort Russian game.
Fear your shadow.
It's 33% off for $2.67. So, and it's just like some visual novel looking game as best I can tell. So, yeah. Nothing more to really say. Next we have a game called Cube Escape Paradox. And it's rated 98% positive of 168 user reviews. How does it have so many reviews already? I think because this is part of the Rusty Lake series. Cube Escape Paradox will be released together with the accompanying Paradox of Rusty Lake film. And there's certainly, I think, some niche fandom
Job's done.
of the Rusty Lake series. I want to get into the Rusty Lake series of its weird, hidden point-and-click adventure games. It's free to play, so I'm going to put it on my wish list just because it's part of the Rusty Lake series, and I'll cover it. Apparently, if you watch the movie Paradox or Rusty Lake film, you probably see a very similar experience to what the free-to-play game is. So you can make a free-to-play game and advertise your series and get good reviews, as long as you do a good job with it, which is not inherently always the case. In fact, more often than not, it's not the case. Cube Escape Chapter 2 also is available, and to get Chapter 2, the DLC, it's $2.69, so it's not really a free-to-play game. The other games that the Rusty Lake have developed is Rusty Lake Paradise, Rusty Lake Roots, and Rusty Lake Hotel, and each of these are 50% off right now, and the most expensive one is selling for $1.99. So yeah, that is a series I want to get into and cover whenever I start thinking about covering something new instead of just catching up and covering what I've already started to cover. Next game we have on Steam is called Caveman Chuck, which seems like it's a platformer, but I do want to applaud the animation here. While the programming and the animation doesn't look incredibly smooth, every little bit of this is something that has been animated much better than what I usually see. We have a caveman Chuck, who is your standard Flintstones caveman, and he's fighting a T-Rex dinosaur in at least one boss fight. It's 15% off for $2.54. At the very least, I think this game deserves to be wishlisted just because it's better looking. So I'm gonna be generous and put Caveman Chuck on my wishlist to see what the reviews say. But yeah, almost certainly it will get rejected for just being a platformer, a 2D simplistic platformer game. But it looks way better than most of them. Somebody actually hired an animator this time. Moving on, Gematsu has an article. Square Enix's Visual Works is seeking creators of new entertainment content for futuristic character design, games, cinematic merchandise, and more. Let's see. use this one to coin to my hand. I'd have to cast 3 spells to summon a dragon. I don't have 3 spells to do that.
Shadows grow short.
For the scourge. Do you need a blessing?
Let's see. So Square Enix Visual Works Studio has published a new futuristic character prototype trailer for which it is seeking creators of new entertainment content based on the character design. So basically they're saying, we've created this character. Can you contact us if you're interested in creating a story or promotion? So we've fallen in love with this character that we drew. But we are so creatively bankrupt at Square Enix. That's literally what they're saying, is that they're so creatively bankrupt that they can't even think of something to do with the character that they drew. I wonder if maybe this character is stolen art of some sort, and they stole the character art from somebody, and now they need some coverage to say, well, if we have random people that didn't work for us write the story, then we can claim that we didn't steal the story also. Because I would say this character does look like well, she looks a little bit like the main girl Siri in well, no, one of the girls looks like Metal Gear Solid, but a female Metal Gear Solid. And Square Enix doesn't own Metal Gear Solid.
Not of cards.
I would say a lot of this is literally just stolen ideas from Ghost in the Shell. This is hey, I liked the Ghost in the Shell movie in particular, because she's fighting a bunch of robotic dolls that are getting turned into and transforming themselves into kind of monsters.
Choose soon.
This had to be some kind of pitch where they had no story writer, or they lost their story writer. Yeah, this is clearly stolen concepts from the Western movie of Ghost in the Shell. And I didn't even watch that movie, and I can tell that that's what's going on here. Now, I would say that the main female lead in this trailer doesn't really look anything like the Ghost in the Shell character, but she does definitely look like Solid Snake, a female Solid Snake. That's all they've drawn here. So now they're trying to get some coverage. I would say that's really what this is boiling down to, is we cannot say we're making a Metal Gear Solid fake game. This is an interesting the Solid Snake, female Solid Snake, she got damaged, and so in rebuilding her arm, she lost some clothes to show her cleavage. Yeah, it's almost like the employee who made this was not allowed to make this, but I don't know how you put hundreds of hours of rendering time and animation time into the development of something like this without somebody else noticing higher up. Unless this was just straight up gonzo work where that was being done behind the backs of people. And the character has one blue eye when you're not looking through her cybernetic eye patch. It's really, really ridiculous. Let's see. The character prototype reads, contact us if you're interested in creating, quote, new entertainment content using this character design. We are looking forward to contact from creative studios and production companies worldwide. There are no restrictions on content format, games, cinematics, merchandise, anything is acceptable. So it's almost like they just want to license it. It's like, we don't want to do anything ourselves, but we want to license it, and we want to be able to sue somebody for copyright infringement if they make a game that looks anything like this and they didn't license it. This may literally just be patent trolling. There's no need to adapt the story or feel of the prototype movie. The user is free to create any character, story, or background. Quote, this is not a promotional contest nor a recruitment for Square Enix or Visual Works staff. The purpose of this project is to foster the creation of new content based on a character design and solely for commercial use. Square Enix Co. Limited, we hereafter owns all rights of this movie and the character design. In order to exploit our copyrighted materials, you need to obtain our approval. Yes, this is literally copyright trolling. Square Enix saw something that looks something like this in the works, and now they are going to try to claim that their art is prior art and sue somebody. It's literally going to come down to a lawsuit. It's either copyright trolling or licensing of the laziest factor. This is really, really insane. I have never seen this happen in the video game industry, and I'm not being hyperbolic about that. I don't know how they'd even win in a lawsuit here, because this is literally just stolen ideas left and right. There's nothing unique in any of this that I think stands out. Moving on, Deck 9 Games is developing a new title for Square Enix. Life is Strange Before the Storm Studio, not the main company that did Life is Strange, has announced a continued partnership. I don't know if that inherently means it's another Life is Strange game or if it's something else. The partnership with Deck 9 has been a huge success, says Square Enix. The opportunity to work with Deck 9 on another game was an easy decision, although we're keeping the project details under wraps for now. So yeah, basically not news.
I comply.
And both of these announcements were probably from the Tokyo Game Show. I suppose it's possible that Square Enix put out that trailer because they literally had nothing else that they could talk about at the Tokyo Game Show and they didn't want to embarrass themselves. I could see that too. Just a blanket decision and to say, well, let's put something out. Let's do something, even if it is going to be just a trailer for a product that doesn't exist. Oh, I played the wrong card. Let's see. Gematsu's an article. Sega announces Kimono Friends game. Kimono Friends is an anime. It's sort of childlike anime about animals running around in a world that used to be run by humans, but all the humans died out. It's not as dark as, well, on the face of it, it's not very dark, but there are some dark undertones to the story.
Pain, speak to me.
Right away.
Let's see. Gematsu has an article. Wild Arms Million Memories launches September 26th in Japan. This is going to be on what console though? Google Play. and iOS, so it's a cell phone game. I don't think I've heard about the Wild Arms series in a while. And let's see, where are we now? I think I still got a ton of games to talk about. It's been another hour. We are relatively in good position, I would say. Like, all I need to do is play 11 more priest cards, win or lose. It'd be nice if I won, but that doesn't really matter. And then I'm over to the Asian account, and then we'll just have to struggle with some more tavern balls on the Asian account. That's going to be it for this recording. Thanks for all the people on the chat, too. It's kind of died down now, but it was going good for a while there. As always, I ask you to like, share, subscribe, comment, and watch every second of my videos. If you want a friend or follow me on any social media sites, there's a whole bunch of links down below. Thank you for watching. Have a good evening.